That's crazy.
It just fucking gets trapped in there.
That's crazy. So we are here for Local Social Pub podcast number 2.
Episode 2, motherfuckers.
2. Now.
Yes.
Do you
Episode
know,
2.
Do you know who Bert Bacharach is?
Isn't he a musician?
Mm-hmm.
I've heard Bert Bacharach from something.
All the time, like in my life. The name, it's a funny kind of name, yeah.
I think it's been in movies, like they've made jokes about it or
sure.
something.
This guy thinks he's Bert Bacharach over here.
Yeah, but I don't think I know. Maybe if I heard a song, it's probably one of those people
He's written countless hits from the 50s, pop songs, When You See Me Walk On By, that kind of stuff, like just
so
classics.
So he was a singer or he was just a songwriter?
No, I believe he was a songwriter, composer, more of a composer.
So he never sang or anything. Gotcha.
No, I don't think so, but I could be totally wrong. But I just mentioned it because it's like I did like most searched topics this week, and I expected like some crazy bullshit like we had the first podcast, like,
and it was Bert Bacharach,
and it was Bert Bacharach by miles, like the
is it his birthday or something?
I think he must have passed away.
He might have passed away.
Let me check it out. He must have passed away, right?
Well, you know, it's funny. You know who Chris Stapleton is?
Yeah, of course I know who Chris Stapleton is.
You know, for the longest time, he was a writer, composer, and didn't perform.
Yes.
He just wrote for people.
Yes.
And now that you see that guy perform and you hear his voice and how good he is on a guitar and stuff, and you're like, oh my God, dude, what a fucking waste for him just to be writing songs and not performing. That dude's got a fantastic voice.
He's amazing. He's one of the very few. Remember, you know, this is the kind of background I come from. Not that world of music, but it's all the same in a sense of writers and producers wanted to be. Typically, they wanted to be the artist in some way, shape, or form their whole career. They just happened to. And so, but what I have seen is I've seen a ton of fantastic writers try really hard at a solo career and it doesn't pan out. He's one of the few that it has.
Well, the thing is, you could be really good at melodies and you could be very good musically and be very good at writing, right, and composing a song. But if your voice sucks, then
I think it's no. But some of these guys are great. They're just not stars, dude. Chris. Bro, like that whole thing, like he created this whole persona the same way he creates a track with the leather duster and the hat and the jewelry. That is not a comfortable look to rock
and the big
on
beard
stage.
And all this
shit.
shit.
Yeah. And so,
especially on stage.
Yeah, and so he's got the whole thing down, you know.
He's one of the few guys that, like, when I listen to his songs, it gives you the feels. You know what I mean? It's like, God, like his voice, he puts a lot of emotion into his voice. He's got a little rasp to it, and it's just oh, God damn, dude. He's the business, dude. The business. Because in general, and I think we mentioned it last podcast, I do not have a rosy outlook at modern music, right? Like, I feel like the 90s were great.
Sure.
60s, 70s were great.
Sure.
Parts of the 80s, but, like, I don't know, man. A lot of current stuff is just kind of rehashed bullshit that's auto-tuned, and it's written by people to specifically be a hit, and it has no real emotion or feeling behind it. But he's an exception.
Okay, so like I like my whole music career, or whatever you want to call it.
You can sing, by the way.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You had sent me a clip of that one time, and I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be, you know, because a lot of times people said I used to be in a band or whatever, and they send you a clip, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's okay, but it's like, I see why he's not doing that now. Right. You know what I'm saying? But yours was like legit. I was like, oh, this motherfucker can go. Okay,
bro, I got to work with that. I got to work with Wyclef. I got to work with LL. I got to work with Cash Money. I got to work with a lot of people. It was an amazing time, but I put I put an expiration date on it, and I was comfortable leaving it, and thank God I did, because my life is so much better for it.
That's smart. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't do that.
Oh my God, dude. Do you know how many people have come up to me, like family, friends and stuff? They're like, my son, can you please talk to him? And I'm like, no, because no one can talk to him. He thinks, and I had this conversation at a New Year's party that I went to. It was actually a great New Year's this year. I usually hate New Year's, but this year was pretty cool. It was at a friend's house locally, and these guys were asking me about my tattoos, and I told them, you know, most of them are band related, and you believe that God has given you, like when you hear Kanye and these guys talk, they believe that God has given them some gift. And it worked out for them. It didn't work out for 99.9% of people who tried to do it, but it worked out for them.
Kanye's a weird example, though, because I feel like he's legitimately crazy.
Now, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if he's always been that way, but, like, I hear that guy talk, and I'm like...
You know what the problem is, Jeremy?
I'm like, is he all there, bro? Like, is this all a... You know, a lot of these guys, they say a lot of this shit, and it's just a drum up. If you talk to them on a personal level, not being recorded, they're normal, but when you turn the camera on, they say all this crazy shit just for the hype and just for the publicity. So I'm like, is he just doing this just to get the publicity, or is he really this fucking crazy?
I think it's both. He needs the attention too. He's kind of disappeared over the last I
haven't heard much about him recently, but I mean, he was married to Kim Kardashian for a certain amount of years, so you have to be a little off to do that.
Bro, don't you dare talk about Kim like that, bro. Come on. Don't disrespect. What's wrong with Kim? She's a business person. They just can't hang with that family because they're monster business people, bro. You got to be in game mode.
I'm sure on a personal level, she's a delightful person, right? I'm sure. If I met her, I would probably feel very different if I met her in person. I'm sure she's polite and delightful. But, like, my wife used to watch that show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and I was just like, I just want to shoot myself in the face. Like, I couldn't be around these people more than 5 minutes before I would.
No, I hear you on that, man. These aren't people that I would probably like want to spend an enormous amount of time with, nor would they want to spend an enormous amount of time with me or you.
Oh, definitely not me. They would take one look at me and be like, no, bitch. No.
But I just my whole thing with them is I don't watch the show and I don't care what any of them have to say. I respect their gangster. Like that Chris, the mom, she turned something that was really nothing into something incredible. And look at, bro, no one would touch Kanye before he married Kim on the fashion tip. He went on some talk show, I think it was Letterman, and he was like, no one will touch me because I'm black, all that stuff.
But wasn't he making Yeezys before he ever met Kim?
He made it with Nike once or twice. The deal didn't work out. And then he gets with Kim, and all of a sudden this Adidas deal pops out. I'm quite sure Chris had something to do with it. And it became the #1 selling sneaker. I think of all time, Jordan's going to take it over again because
I'm going to say something real quick that is just, it may piss off a bunch of your listeners. It may even piss you off. We'll see.
You can't.
I don't think it'll piss off my listeners, but I think people that follow you may.
Okay.
Yeezys are the fucking ugliest shoes I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay, so hold on a sec.
They're atrocious.
I don't know if they're ugly or not, but what I can tell you is when you put them on your feet, they're addictive. That's all I'll say.
They're ugly, bro. My son is big into them, and he's got the I don't know if they're even called Yeezys, but they're like his version of a Croc.
Okay, all right. So listen, there's many versions of the Yeezy. I don't want to go down that road. Like, there's a lot of them, but the main Yeezy is the one that's like got knit material on top and a rubber sole, and they just look like
ugly.
They're ugly,
I just don't
but
like how bulbous the soles are.
Sure.
I just think it's just not an attract. I mean, it's personal preference. Right?
It is personal preference, but it's also the most comfortable sneaker I've ever put on my feet. I mean, and I'm not wearing them anymore.
And this coming from a guy that has a pair of custom-made Knicks boots and flip-flops, and that's like the extent of my shoe wardrobe, right? If it's cold, I've got a leather boot. If it's cold, I've got a leather boots, and if it's hot, I've got a flip-flop. So I mean, my shoe opinion is probably not very deep or should probably be listened to, but I always make fun of
while we're talking about sneakers, I wanna point something out. I got a pair of these. Okay, can you see these?
See, those are fine. Those are like sneakers. Those are something you would have worn in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay, can you see these though? You see these?
Yeah.
So this is a Nike Air Force One. And
they're probably $2,000 because
these are expensive,
absurd.
but they put their logo on the side instead of Nike. Okay. And they may have changed a few minor details about the sneaker, but they've been selling this sneaker, which is basically an Air Force One, a Nike Air Force One, the highest selling sneaker that Nike ever put out, I believe.
More than the Jordan.
I do believe so, yes. Every year after year, it's the highest selling sneaker because it's just an all-white basic sneaker that everyone can agree on kind of thing.
Bro, do you remember the Reebok pumps?
Of course, I have a pair. I love them.
Dude, I
don't wear them.
Coolest. When I was like, I don't remember how old I was. I was in my tween years. I was probably somewhere between 8 and 13. I don't remember. I was a kid. Those came out, and I thought they were the coolest fucking thing that was ever invented.
It is cool. It is such a great idea. There's so much about that project that's amazing. But check this out. so this company that's owned by these two designers, one is Pharrell Williams, which you've probably heard his music. I'm so happy, the song Happy.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Sure.
And a million other things. And
Not my stuff, but I know.
And this guy in Japan, I think he sold his shares in the brand or whatever, but they've been putting out this sneaker forever, and everyone's always been like, how come Nike doesn't sue them? But whatever. I think people figured they must have had a licensing deal. Then there's this YouTuber, Omi in a Hellcat. He is a guy who made about $50 million supposedly off of selling. They're basically Roku USBs that unlock cable and movies and stuff like that. And
Gotcha.
he was smart. He was selling it as a subscription. And so he started this YouTube channel.
I think I remember hearing about that, actually.
Yeah. So he got busted, and they took everything, but then they ended up giving some of it back, and now it sounds like he's not going to go to jail. I don't know, but he's a heavy on YouTube, bro. He posts at like every few days. He has like 40 cars. Everything's a Lambo to a. I met a dude at a party, and I was like, he worked for McLaren. And I said, hey, this guy I watched just bought one from McLaren, and he claims he bought it cash. Could you ask your dealer if – and so he knew the guy that sold him the car. And he was like – he bought it for cash, and he didn't buy the cheap one. He bought like the next level. And so this dude had a lot of cash. He gets busted. Now he comes back, and he's doing merch, except he basically does exactly what I just showed you. He takes the silhouette of an Air Force One or a Jordan – and he puts his own logo on it, and he's blowing up off of it. And there's another guy out of North Jersey that's doing the same thing in New York, and they're both blowing up. And so all of a sudden, Nike wakes up, and they're like, hey, we want to see your books. You know, we want your money. And and then like a month later, they announced that they're finally, after 10 or 15 years of selling the sneaker, they're going after Bape now too, which is what I'm wearing, which is Pharrell's company. So it's like, man, just because someone's letting you get away with something doesn't mean they're always going to let you get away with it. And the more rope they give you, you know, the harder it's going to be to untangle that shit.
The sneaker game is strange to me because, like I said, being a guy that, I mean, I was exaggerating when I said I have two shoes. I do have like a black pair and a brown pair of like nice dress shoes in case I have to wear a suit somewhere, which is like funerals and weddings, basically. I'm not in a situation where I need to wear suits, but I do have it in case I need it. I think all guys should have at least one or two nice suits and stuff in case they have
and
to
hope
go
they
to
fit when you have to wear them.
right, because you don't wear them 5 years at a time. You put it on, you're like, this motherfucker's a little tighter than it was last time I put it on. Actually, the last time I went and got a new suit, I had to actually get it smaller because the suit that I'd had previously is when I was very heavy into working out, and I weighed like 225 pounds and could bench press 400. And yeah, it was like big in the chest, and I put it on. I looked like I was wearing my dad's coat. I was like, oh shit, like I need to go get something a little smaller.
I love that. That's a great look, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, but anyway, so I'm exaggerating a little bit. I do have a couple pair of nice shoes. I have actually 2 pairs of leather boots, a couple pairs of sneakers for like working out in and stuff like that. So I'm exaggerating a little bit, but for the most part, I only have 1 or 2 of everything just to cover all my bases, right? And my oldest son is much like you in the fact he's a bit of a sneakerhead, and I mean he just so many sneakers, man. It's just everywhere, and I'm just like, and he spends all his money on that stuff. Like that's all his extra money. That's what he's saving up for every time he buys something. It's another pair of sneakers, and I'm like, I don't understand the sneaker game, bro. Yeah. I mean, I respect it. I mean, I wish I could. I wish I could. Way more whiskey.
I wish I could explain to you. All I can tell you is it's a lot like cigars. It's the reason why I collect cigars. I got out of sneakers because I felt like it was becoming a little immature of like a 35-year-old dude. But now it's back again.
Well, dude, I see guys in their 40s and 50s.
Oh yeah. It's not immature. I just felt that way, and so I got rid of a lot of sneakers and I ended up finding cigars, and that became my collectible, and that's kind of how the club started. But I wish I could. Can you explain why you love to collect every whiskey bottle? Which I have a question for you. If you hit the lottery today for $1 billion,
yes.
Okay. What would change? Would anything change? What would you do? What would you do with the money, Jeremy?
Nothing would change. Honestly, I'm not one of these people that. Okay, I take that back. There would be a couple things that would change, but I'm not one of these people that ever feels like. Now, some people would say I live in excess now, right? Depending on your background and socioeconomical situation and whatever. Some people might say I live in excess, but I have never been one of these guys that wanted 4 properties and 37 cars and like all this crazy. Like I just don't see the need for all that. Like I don't have the desire for that. I would probably buy maybe one more car, maybe a small boat to like go fishing and stuff like that. And I would buy a bunch of property. I mean, like 100 acres or more, and put a fairly nice house in the middle of the property to where I didn't have to ever see anybody if I didn't want to. Yeah. I would keep the house that I currently live in because it's in the middle of a lot of stuff and I have access to stores and all that. But I would split my time 50-50 between being out in the woods away from everybody and then when I wanted to be around people coming to this. But that would be the extent. The rest of it I would put away and make sure I have a nest egg for my kids and whatever. I would still make YouTube videos because I enjoy doing this. So I mean I don't think much would change. What about you?
I don't think much would change either. I looked at a couple of years ago, last year maybe, I looked at land in Tennessee. You know, a couple hundred
I looked
acres.
up in that area. I wanted something close enough that I could drive if I wanted to spend like a long weekend. I don't want it to be, even though I think there's areas of like the Midwest that are beautiful, like that would be too hard to go back and forth. Yeah. You know, so I looked at like North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee.
Yep. Tennessee has some great deals. These are places that they don't even have internet yet. A lot of the places I was looking at, which is interesting. They'll get it very quickly.
Well, you can do, how's the satellite internet stuff coming along?
So I got the Tesla one. What's it called, William? Starlink.
It should be called Skynet because I'm pretty sure that's going to be the end of the world. All this AI and stuff. Terminator's coming, bro.
So, bro, we tried to use it, man. You got to mount that thing to the roof. I put it on the side of my house, and it didn't even work well. You have to put it where it has clear 360 degrees of sky. And then I think it works just fine. You know, it's not setting the world on fire. It's not like wired internet, but it's still damn good.
But I mean, could you stream like, you know, 4K shows and watch Netflix and all that stuff? It's fast enough to do all that stuff?
If you have it set up properly, I believe so, yes.
Oh, so that's good. So even if you live pretty remote.
The future. It's the future. There's no doubt. And the thing's going to get smaller. Right now, it looks like a drawing table, but it's going to get smaller. And when it gets smaller, you can just throw it up anywhere.
Is it kind of like the size when they were doing like DirecTV?
Yeah, but it's rectangular instead of circular.
But it's about that size.
It's about that size, for sure. Like, you got to go up on a roof and mount this thing and hope that nothing happens to it. Because the equipment costs money. It's like $400 or something.
Which, if you're in Tennessee or something, you're probably okay. Here in Florida, I mean, dude, here in Florida, even with some of the hurricanes and stuff we had, when I used to have DirecTV back in the day before broadband and all that stuff came around, my dish never got fucked up on the roof. And we had some pretty bad tropical storms and stuff, and it never got ripped off or anything. I'm sure a bad enough one it would.
Did you put it up yourself?
No, they did it for me.
Okay.
When I had it installed.
You're a handy enough dude to do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I used to do a lot more stuff myself than I do now just because I stay really busy. So it's not a matter of not being able to or not having the desire to. It's not having the time to. So I tend to hire people to do stuff more these days than I used to. But, you know,
I have no choice.
I actually miss it a little bit. And it's funny. It's something we were talking about before we started the podcast reminded me of this. And there's something... kind of what's the word I'm looking for, meditative or I don't know, calming about working with your hands.
It puts you in flow.
Yeah, I mean, and just building and disconnecting from like the world we live in today, which is all electronic and social media and phones and gadgets and all this, and it's kind of nice sometimes just to unplug from all that shit and just do something with your hands
100%.
Because for thousands and thousands of years before we were the way we are now, that's the way people were.
My problem is everything that I like. There are certain days of the week where I wake up and I know right from the beginning it's one of those days because like I'll go to reach my phone and it'll like smash on the ground or like I open a drawer and the drawer like comes all the way out and everything dumps out all over the floor. I grab the salt and pepper and the whole thing goes,
the
you know, like
falls
that,
off,
dude, that's
salt.
like at least once a week I have one of those days and I'm like, what the fuck? And my wife hears me yelling at myself, which is weird because then I think about it. I'm like, man, am I fucked up? Like, what am I doing?
I have those days. I always tell my wife, I'm like, I feel like I should go to bed and just restart. Like, I feel like today is fucking jinxed, and I should just go to bed, sleep for like an hour, wake back up, and reboot the day because it's a disaster.
Totally.
Disaster.
So nothing would change if you had $1 billion. I would give a lot of money away. I would have a lot of fun giving a lot of money away.
I definitely would. You know, I was thinking, it's funny you say that. I was actually just thinking, I saw a guy do it on a channel I watch. What channel was it, actually, now that I say that? Was it Garand Thumb?
Who?
Garand Thumb. Yeah, Garand Thumb is an M1 Garand. It's a rifle that they used to use a long time ago. People used to get their thumb stuck in the action, and it would smash their thumb. So there's this term Garand Thumb that comes from that. But he has a channel. He does like gun reviews and all kinds of really cool stuff. I think it was him. Maybe it wasn't his channel. Anyway, regardless, it was one of the channels I was watching a video on just the other night. Actually, no, you know what? It wasn't him. It was something completely opposite. It was, oh my God, it was so opposite of Garand Thumb. Jesus, how did I confuse those two?
What was it?
It was James Hoffman. Who's a coffee guy. So I don't know how the fuck I just confused coffee with Garand Thumb because I was watching them all the same.
He's also like the most gentle person that ever walked.
Shit, right. The very opposite of like that. And he's British, so he's very like, you know, but he's a great guy, very knowledgeable in the coffee space. But anyway, he was just one of the videos I was watching, he was doing a limited run of t-shirts and all proceeds went to this charity. Okay. And I was like, you know what, man, maybe I should do like a limited run of some of my shirts and donate to like the Humane Society or something, because I'm a big animal guy. Like, I love dogs, and it's pretty horrible the treatment they get. And I was like, man, maybe I should do that. That's actually something, a cool way to use.
Oh, it feels good. It feels good, man. We've worked with a couple different charities through here. Feeding America is one of them. Canines for Warriors, who I'm going to be doing a big push with.
That would be a cool one. That's another thing. The military.
They're up by you, man. Bro, check this out. They not only rescue dogs, but then they pair them, they train them and pair them with soldiers that have PTSD.
Oh, that's awesome. And see,
it's amazing.
Maybe I should do something for those guys, because that helps dogs and soldiers, which are both kind of my people that I'm probably most likely to give money to. Yeah. Animals, because I feel like they can't really help themselves. Sure. And vets, because I feel like those guys deserve any support. They serve their country, for God's sake. Do you still give money
to people on the street? I know you're rarely in a city situation like that, I don't think. But
I think did we talk about this last time?
No.
I thought we did.
If you have cash on you, which I never do, will you hand $1 over to one of the Panhandling?
It's a weird situation these days, because you're right. I never have cash on me. Like, never. It's very rare that I have any cash. So there are times that I've wanted to, and then I just didn't have cash.
Okay, so let's say you don't have cash, and you look, and you're like, damn, I want to give this person. And they're like, hey, I got Cash App.
That's a big negative, because that's probably some bullshit.
They do that.
But it's so suspect, and I hate to say this, because I genuinely, God, I couldn't say that word, would love to help people. But there's so many people that stand on these corners these days, and they're scammers. You'll see them. They're sitting on a corner with a sign talking about they're starving, and then if you watch them, they'll walk off and go get in a brand new Ford F-150, and like they have it parked down the road, and they'll drive off, and you're like, what the fuck? This guy just got into a truck that's worth more than mine. You know, so it's like, you're always kind of like, are these guys
It's just going to drugs, though. It's just going to drugs. I'll tell you what bothered me. On my exit, I pulled off on my exit one time, and there's a woman there with a 3-year-old. And I was like, get this fucking kid off the side of the road. Gotta go.
Yeah. It's a tough, I don't know, man. That's a tough subject, because people that have hard times, it's like you want to help those people out. But at the same time, you never know if it's going to the right place, if they're scamming, or if they're out there with their 3-year-old, and you're giving them the money because you want to make sure that poor kid gets a good meal, but then the parent's a piece of shit, and rather than get the kid a meal, they go buy a crack rock. And it's like, so I just actually hurt the kid more by giving them money, because now they got a high parent. You know, it's
tough decision, tough call, man.
It's tough because you want to help, but it's like there's so many shady people out there. So that's why I kind of feel like giving to shelters and stuff might be the best way to do that, because then you know the money's going to feed people and give people clothes and shelter and stuff, and it's not some dude that's just going to go buy a meth or whatever the fuck they're on and ruin their life even worse.
Sure. Boy, that Andrew Tate, he's been in holding ever since. They got him.
Dude, that was last time we talked about this. There were some very interesting comments. Half the people were like, "You guys are nuts. Andrew Tate's a piece of shit, motherfucker." And then the other half was like, "This guy's innocent and he's being railroaded." It's like, okay. And that just goes to show you that, like, I don't think anybody really knows what the fuck is going on, man. I will say I did some research after we got off, and I did watch some clips of him saying some things that really turned me off. And I was like this one clip, and it wasn't like this was hearsay. I saw a clip of him saying it. He was like, "Yeah, so women are stupid. So blah, 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 blah."
He's a brilliant marketer, but it sounds like in his, yeah.
I was like, God, that's a little fucking harsh, bro. Like, do you have to come at it like that? So I don't know, man. I still fall back on, and people said I was being like using this as a scapegoat to like just stay out of it because I don't know what's what. Yeah. I will say he doesn't seem like he's necessarily a great person.
What gives you that idea?
But there are things he says. I stick with what I said last time.
He's a genius in a lot of ways, but he's a bad dude at the same time. Like, the world needs to understand that you can be both. You can be three things. You could be a great person and a piece of shit at the same time.
Yeah, because I've seen him say some things that really struck a chord with me, and I was like, yeah, man, that's true. You know, whatever. And then I've also now, when I really went digging, I saw him say some stuff that was pretty horrific. That I was like, oh my God, dude, that's really kind of a shitty thing.
You know what I say to anyone that has any opinion on any of it? You will be remembered for what you do in the end, not what you say. So it might get you the attention now, but you will be remembered. Like, you could look up, Pravada and be like, oh, he said this about this person and that, but you're not going to remember that in 20 years from now, or maybe you will, but only you will. And you're going to see the smoke signal show. You're going to see the education that we put into this, the building of the culture. That's what you do more will be how people remember you more.
It's like the saying, actions speak louder than words, right?
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Put your money where your mouth is, more so than it's easy to do a lot of this. It's not as easy to actually take action and make the world a better place or do something positive for people.
Oh, for sure. Which is the reason, one thing I realized about business, if we want to get on an entrepreneurial tip for a minute, because I think people ask me questions entrepreneurially. I think that expression, 90% of life is showing up. 90% of business is doing the work that no one else will do, and oftentimes that's paperwork. And that is getting licensing, things like that. It's so hard for some people just to get through that process that I know guys that have been starting brands forever and they still don't have their license and they still don't have this and they didn't get this. And, it's oftentimes when we move into a different market or we try a different business model, we're thank God we have a team, because I would have a lot of trouble getting through that paperwork on my own.
Well, I think and I'm sure there's going to be some entrepreneurs and businessmen out there that are like, this fucking guy is such a moron. Anything you say online, you're going to have people that totally think you disagree with people. But I think part of being a good businessman or businessman or businesswoman or whatever, business person, Jesus Christ, these days, is knowing how to delegate and putting the right people on the right job. Like, I am not good at paperwork. I am not an organized person. I have more of a creative mindset. Right. So I don't try to do that stuff. My wife, on the other hand, excellent at organization, very good. She's very detail oriented with paperwork and all that stuff. So she does all that stuff. I don't touch it. So I think finding talented people that are good at things and being able to delegate those things to people that are good at them and using everybody's talents appropriately is the best thing. Because why stick somebody like me that's shitty at doing it, and I'm just going to screw it up?
100%.
You know what I mean? Find somebody that's good at it, that's their talent. Like, I have a tax guy. I don't try to do my own taxes. Could I if I really tried? Maybe, but I'd be wasting a lot of time and energy on something I'm not great at. I have him for that.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Some people may disagree and say that you should do everything yourself, but
Oh no! And that person, I'll argue with them all day long. And let me tell you, that's one thing I saw in the music business a lot. The producer that wanted to be the one-man show, and it was like, no, bro. If you don't think that Timberland and Dr. Dre have 12 other guys working under them, it's not. And back to that like star power thing, which is like, you know, rappers are supposed to write their own lyrics. When they came out and said that Drake didn't write his own stuff, the whole world stopped. In that, you know, people that listened to that were like, mind blown. And then they play the track where the kid that wrote the stuff is doing the same lyrics, and it's like, this isn't half as good,
right?
So I mean, Michael Jackson didn't write all of his own stuff. Like, right. Why does a rap, you know? So it's like star power over everything. You know what I mean?
I mean,
so
it's more.
You got to know what you do well.
Yeah, for sure, and leverage that, right? Leverage what people's skill sets are to get the best results you can. I think that's part of being an entrepreneur and having a business and starting businesses, is not trying to shoulder everything yourself. I'm guilty about shouldering too much of it. You for years have told me, Jeremy, you got to get an editor. You got to get somebody to help you with some of this stuff, because you would be able to pump out a lot more stuff if you could get, and I have a hard time relinquishing control of the creative aspect of it, being the videography and the editing. Because to me, the creative world is my place, and that's where I like to be. Now, all the other stuff I do, like I said, the you know, taxes and all the paperwork and the making sure we got LLCs set up and businesses and trademarks and all that stuff. My wife does all that stuff.
Yeah. It's not easy.
The guys at Exclusive, you know, they have a lot of partners in manufacturing. So when I want to do a product, I design it. And then I work with them to get the manufacturing handled, because they have all these contacts in manufacturing. Why would I spend hours and days of my life trying to develop these relationships when I can partner up with a company that already got these relationships and, you know, make it happen faster?
Sure. Is there one movie that you could watch over and over and over again? Like, what's your favorite movie?
There's a bunch.
What's the top one or two?
Snatch, I should say.
Oh, Snatch is great.
Guy Ritchie movie with, you know, Benicio del Toro, Brad Pitt, Jason Statham, you know, that whole crew. That's a pretty much any Guy Ritchie movie. I really like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Did you like the last one he did where everyone's in $10,000 outfits, the whole movie with Matt McConaughey?
Oh, it was great, dude.
It was good.
I loved it. It was good. It wasn't his best, but I really enjoyed it, and I've watched it multiple times. It was, what was the name of that movie? The Gentleman.
The Gentleman. And I actually thought it was better the second or third time I watched it.
I did too.
Yeah.
I like it more every time I watch it.
Yeah,
but
cool.
I just like the way.
Who was your favorite character in that one? I like the dude, the Colin. What's his name?
I probably
Colin Farrell. He plays that coach. It's like so not him.
Come on, boys. Come on, boys. He's smacking those kids in the fucking shop. He's like, get out of here with that shit. What do you got, a knife? What do you got, a knife? No, I think my favorite character might have been Charlie Hunnam's character.
Oh.
I thought he was pretty good because he was real calm, and he was kind of the guy that took care of everything and kept stuff calm. But then, like, there was a couple scenes where he lost his shit a little bit. He's rolling that joint and talking to that guy, and it was just like, he's so calm during that whole situation. I don't know. I thought he's
a cool dude, man.
He is. He is. His accent is so strange.
Oh yeah.
His real accent, like when you hear him talk, because it's kind of British, but it's kind of not.
Bro, the whole time Sons of Anarchy was popping, no one knew that this guy was British.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, wait till you... my dad was in love with that show. I'm like, wait till you hear this guy talk in real life. You're going to fucking have your mind blown.
My wife is in love with him. That's like...
Oh, dude, he's a good-looking dude.
That's her hall pass right there, bro. if that was a thing, like, that would be... She loves that guy. She always has. She's got a thing for Charlie
He's a
Hunnam.
Good-looking dude, man.
And he's fit too, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
he's fit. No, he's good. I like him a lot. But yeah, I agree with you. Either Colin Farrell's character or Charlie Hunnam's character.
These are newer movies though. My favorite is Back to the Future, Part 2 mostly, but
Back to the Future's great. Die Hard, the original Die Hard, was one of my favorites for a long time. I've watched that movie 100 times, and I am in the camp of the fact that it is a Christmas movie. There's a huge debate: is Die Hard a Christmas movie? I am in it is a Christmas movie camp, just because I always watch it around Christmas.
Sure,
it's So
Hans, Bubby, it's a Rolex.
Dude, it's such a good movie.
That's one of the best characters in any movie of all time.
Dude, he's such a schmuck. It's like,
Oh,
you
it's
just
so
want to
great.
smash that guy the whole time.
So great.
But yeah, I Die Hard, the Guy Ritchie movies I really like. Tombstone is another one that I can watch over and over. I love that movie. Val Kilmer did such a good job as Doc Holliday in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Some one-liners that are just epic. What about you?
Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, yeah, dude. That's a classic. That's a good one.
I've seen it about 1,000,000 times.
That's a classic. Goonies.
Goonies is great. I've seen
like
it a
watching
lot.
that
It's
with
not my favorite.
That's one of those movies that I liked introducing my kids to.
Yeah.
You know, and I watch it with the kids.
Yeah.
When they were younger, I would watch it with the kids and stuff.
My kid and I have been watching something on Netflix. It's Lemony Snicket's series of something events.
Is that the one with Jim Carrey in it?
Neil Patrick Harris. He plays like this weird... bro, it's a good show, man. And the scenes, like the set design, everything's beautiful. And there's like 3 seasons of it. It's good family.
Which
it's
streaming network?
Series of unfortunate events. It's on Netflix.
No, but Netflix does good, dude. Have you been watching? Speaking, I know this is we're like a fucking movie review podcast, but have you seen The Last of Us?
No, I have not. Everyone is talking about it.
Oh my god, dude, it's so good. And I never even played that video.
I heard it's like the best TV ever.
Dude, it's great. It is fucking.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
It is great.
I'm gonna have to watch it.
It is great. It is one of the better shows I've watched lately, like series wise.
Did you see Stallone's new show Tulsa King?
That's great too. I'm actually
liked
behind. I'm behind on it. I watched like the first 3 or 4 episodes, and then I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I'm a little irritated with these streaming networks, because one of the things I loved about streaming is when they would drop whole series at once.
Yeah.
And I could watch them at my leisure. If I wanted to binge watch it because I had some free time, I could sit down and be a fucking slob and just watch 9 hours of Netflix in one day if I wanted to.
Sure.
Or I could watch one episode a night or whatever. I loved that. And I like the throughput you get. You get a more, I feel like, balanced view when you're seeing it next to each other and there's not breaks.
Sure.
And now all these fucking networks or streaming services have gone back to the old shit of dropping one a week, and it irritates the hell out of me. So sometimes I'll watch a few and then I'll get pissed off and I won't watch it until the whole series is available, and then I'll watch the whole thing.
That's smart.
But that's what I did with Tulsa King. I watched a few episodes. I really liked it. And then I was like, you know what? I'm just going to wait till it's fucking done. This weekly shit's pissing me off.
I liked it. It was cool.
I thought he did a good job.
Yeah.
What I've seen so far.
He's in great shape, huh? For his age.
Dude, he's like
juice.
He's
to
like
the
mid
max.
70s. Isn't he like mid 70s?
Yeah.
Bro. He's got to be on the gear. He's got to be.
Oh, no, he's always been a big proponent of it.
Okay. I was like, there's no way you're in your mid 70s and look like that without some gear. There's no way. There's no way. But yeah, you should for sure watch The Last of Us, dude. You know, I'm really starting to respect Pedro Pascal more and more. The more stuff I see that guy in, the more I'm like, you know, he's really good. Not that I didn't respect him to begin. He's the guy that plays in The Last of Us. He also plays in The Mandalorian. He's the Mandalorian. He's the main dude.
Oh, the Latin dude.
Yeah. He was in
Game of stuff.
He was briefly in Game of Thrones before he got his head smushed. I don't know. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but I've always liked him. But I've really started to respect him more over the past few years.
Who's someone? Speaking of respect, who's someone that you respect a lot that you wouldn't? It's not so typical. Like, is there like for me, Floyd Mayweather. I love listening to older Floyd Mayweather now that, like, dude, the guy is so successful and he's learned a lot, and the things that he says now are a lot more prolific than when he was just trying to get attention, you know?
Yeah, he's just running his mouth for
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'd have to think about that one. That's a interesting question. Someone like, from what perspective? Like, I think they're wiser than what people give them credit for.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, I know there's people that I find interesting to listen to, but there are people that generally people think of as wiser people.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of somebody that like people don't look at in that lens. But
what do you think about Jordan Peterson?
I actually really like Jordan Peterson, man.
Okay. What do you like about him?
Again, I don't think he's a perfect person. I think he said some stuff that I don't always agree with, but I think most of what he says is pretty spot on, man. He's got it. He's got it down. He's like, yeah, fuck everybody with all this censoring bullshit and this. Because, man, in Canada, and forgive me to any of our Canada people, I think you can actually get in trouble for saying things.
Yeah.
Like, they can fine you and, like, you can get in trouble for, like...
Well, they're going to take away his medical license.
Right, which I don't understand
He
what
doesn't
his
need it
political...
anymore.
Well, no, he doesn't need it anymore. He's got plenty of money, but I don't understand what his medical license has to do with his political views on things.
I'll tell you the only thing I don't like, I find a lot of what Jordan says to be brilliant. I find a few of the things to be total show of age. Like, you know, listen, we all get to that point. There's an age that you hit where you're no longer willing to accept new norms. You know,
Right.
your norm is the way to go, and that's it.
Right.
But the beta to alpha thing, that whole, like, you know, transformation of, like, and that's basically,
Well,
like, when you get to the core of his stuff, that's what it's about.
Well, but if
and,
you
and
listen
my
to
thing is,
him-
we don't need a world full of alphas. There's a
Well-
reason why there's so many beta people out there, and they contribute just as much in their own ways, because alpha guys can't lead a pack of all warrior alphas. Like, you gotta have people to fill every seat, you know?
Sure. But if you listen to his things and you really listen, because I've actually heard him defend that exact critique. And I'm not eloquent enough to speak to it, and I don't remember exactly what he said well enough to speak to it well, but he basically defended that and was like, look, I think people misunderstand me a lot when I say that. Like, there's a place for everybody.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing you're saying, like, but at the same time, he sees a decline in the fact that there does need to be a place for everybody. And he's seeing a lot more of the betas, and the alphas are dying off because alphas are looked at in a very negative way. And he's like, if we don't have these hard pipe hitting motherfuckers, we're going to be in a bad spot if we've got a country full of pussies, right? Like, you need to, basically what you said, you need both, right? Like,
Sure.
Everybody shouldn't be an alpha. That would be a violent, dangerous place if everybody was rolling around all puffy chested and whatever. But you definitely need those guys, right?
Allentown, Pennsylvania.
You need all that stuff. And I mean, it's like some of the stuff they're doing with the military, and I hope this is incorrect. God, I hope this is incorrect.
Oh, no. What is
But
this?
this is another one of these things where you hear it on social media and you don't know if it's true or not. So I hate to, like, you know, pass on the bullshit if it's not true. But they're thinking about taking sir and ma'am out of the military because it's being too gender specific and it's offending people. Wow. And it's like, look, and the military is the last place we should be worried about offending people.
Right.
Like, those are supposed to be tough, strong, mentally tough people. If you calling them ma'am when that's not their preferred pronoun offends them, they get the fuck out of the military, because there's a lot worse shit that's going to go on with these guys. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need to pussify the military, bro. That's the wrong area to do that in. And I mean, that might not be a popular opinion, and some people might get pissed at me about that, but the military, you need to leave the military alone. We need some tough, strong-willed, strong-minded people in the military. And if using the wrong pronoun offends you, you're not the type of person we need out there on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Period. Full fucking stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you.
How do you feel about that?
Bro, it's so confusing because I am very empathetic to, you know, respect of individuals.
I am too, but go ahead. I won't cut you off.
No,
Go ahead.
I am very empathetic to respect of individuals. I also come from a time where, you know, getting verbally and mentally beat up formed my character. It's the reason why I'm so quick-witted. I worked, you know, I got kicked out of high school, and I worked for my father in a bar. I've been bartending since I was like 15, 16 years old. And these guys, we had contracts with the railroad and a trucking company. And so I bartended for truck drivers and railroad guys.
Dude, railroad guys,
you know,
that used to be.
Oh, dude.
But you know what's funny is that's gone kind of soft. I won't interrupt. I'll let you continue your thought process. But the railroad is not what it used to be. That used to be a group of tough, you know, very down to earth, gritty guys that smoked a lot of cigarettes, a lot of dip, a lot of coffee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now it's like sensitivity training and shit. It's like, get the fuck out of here with that. But
Yeah.
anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, so I remember like the first few months of bartending for these guys, I was embarrassed or blushing, or I couldn't keep up, and then eventually I was able to hold my own and dominate, and that helped me a lot tremendously for
You have to adapt or die, bro.
Yeah, dude. I mean, to this day, when someone asks me for a match, I say my ass in your face. You know what I'm saying?
That's a perfect match, you son of a bitch.
Right.
But it's funny. Me and my wife were just having this conversation the other day. I wonder if, with all the anti-bullying and anti-this and anti-that stuff we're doing in schools these days and whatnot, if we're doing the wrong thing there, because you're breeding a lot of kids that are not okay with confrontation, and they don't know how to work through
To adapt.
adapt and how to work through some difficult. I mean, these days you hear about it. Kids get, and this is an unpopular opinion again, and people are probably going to fucking hate me after this podcast, but you hear a lot of these kids that get really upset about cyberbullying, and I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I get it. It's a different culture and it's a different world, and social media is part of these kids' lives more than it was when we were kids. But it's like, it just seems like if you're being bullied online, just stop getting online.
So here's
block them, right? Like every
have,
social media platform has a block function.
I have a more like black and white opinion on this, and the problem with cyberbullying. There's a million problems with it. The problem is it's sort of permanent. If you're with 5 people after school and some guy walks by and calls you something that, everyone laughs and you're embarrassed, you go home, you keep that with you. And
right.
maybe that does form some of this grit that we talk about in a person's character. Okay. But only those 5 people heard it. When you do it online and it's permanent, when someone puts out a image of you that's been doctored or lies about you, that's tough, man. So First Amendment, it wasn't geared towards, online social media where everyone's a fucking tough guy. My thing is, if I wouldn't say it to your face, I won't say it online. And I don't think most people subscribe to that. I have people say things to me and then I see them in person. They're like, you're a genius. I'm a genius. Didn't you just fucking mock me and call me this? No, but you're a genius, bro. Oh, well, gee, thanks. Well,
you don't even have to meet them in person. A lot of times, if you just respond to the comment, they backpedal. Right. They're like, oh,
sure.
Whoa, I didn't think you'd read this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. You're actually great or whatever. But, I mean, and this is a Joe Rogan quote, so this is not my original thought process. And I know you don't always necessarily love Joe Rogan, but he said, I've never met anybody interesting that never had to overcome some adversity in their life.
Okay, so that's what I want to talk about. That was my whole week leading up to this. This is what I want to talk about, and I want to try to get out the gist of it so that you can kind of run with it.
Roger.
I can be very negative and angry. I have a lot of anger inside of me. It is something that I
think
deal
if you
with.
grew up in the 90s, we all do.
So I sit around. I'm always trying to be a better person, right? So I sit around wondering, how unhealthy this is for me. Is this going to cause me to have a heart attack one day? I mean, I legit can get into, pretty angry phases. And I also noticed that
Which is funny because you're such a nice guy normally.
I am. But in my personal, quiet time, like there are times where I'm fucking angry. And so on one hand, it fuels my success because it's part of what makes me work so hard. I have something to prove. I don't know where that comes from, etc. But my thing is it such a bad thing to be, to thrive off of, I would call it a negative energy, right? When you're angry, that's a negative, right? But and then, so I started reading this thing and it's like, I also noticed when my personal life became great, when I met my wife, up until I met my wife, my personal life was traumatic.
That's because your wife's a pretty great person, man.
She's amazing, and
she's very chill. She's very centered.
Yeah.
She's very kind. She reminds me of my wife a lot.
Yeah,
My
totally.
My wife centers me a lot.
Exactly. And so before that, all of my drama came from outside. My mother was a drug addict. I was out in the streets selling drugs, doing stupid shit. The relationships that I was in up until I met my wife were extremely tumultuous. And so the minute that I met my wife and I got my business in order to where like I could make some money sleeping, I still had to work for it, but I could get by with doing a lot less all of a sudden, automating a business. I had like a nervous breakdown. And I spoke to a therapist and he was like, this is the first time in your life that you don't have crazy shit happening to you. So you're kind of like
doesn't know how to take it.
Yeah, and so you're kind of like you now we're getting into the real heart of the issues, which is where all this stuff kind of grew into, and it's kind of like the human being needs adversity to some level. Like all the haters online, like they're thriving off their anger or negative energy for something, and it doesn't do any good for them, right? It doesn't do it like saying nasty things doesn't do any good. So it's like, do human beings just need adversity? Like, okay, my life's taken care of. Everything's great. My business is great. My wife's great. Everything's great. And now I'm yelling at the top of my lungs about, dropping the salt shaker. You
certainly need a certain amount of, I don't know, adversity might be the best thing, but I think humans are wired to deal with a certain amount of stress. And, I always found that working out is a good way to kind of get through some of that stuff. But your body needs that. Like when I'm working out and I'm on it, I am not near as wound up. I don't get mad as easily. I don't get stressed out as quick because I think we were kind of wired to get after it, right? And so many people just sit today. I mean, I sit. It drives my wife crazy because I stand up and eat dinner most nights. And she's like, why are you standing up? It's like, because I sit so fucking much during the day editing a video or filming a video or planning a video or researching this or doing that like we sit so much that I feel like you need to. So, I mean, maybe that, stimulation of adversity is a kind of similar thing. Like your body needs to be stimulated because we live in such easy times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's easy. Life is easy in comparison to the way it was.
Oh yeah.
Think about the way people lived 200 years ago, comparison to the way we live today. It's crazy. But that's the way it's
crazy.
It's crazy. It's
walking in there.
that was actually pretty good.
It's crazy.
But
you're coming at my boy all wrong. Stab you in the neck.
Dude, he's another one. I love that guy.
The best,
I love it.
The best.
He's the fucking best. But for thousands of years, biologically, we were wired that way. So I think this dramatic shift of the way, I mean, think about how quick things have shifted in, say, the last, I feel like for the first, I don't know, and people are probably going to be like, you're a dumbass, but 20,000 years, whatever, that people were civilized and doing things. Yeah. Things moved pretty damn slow.
Yeah.
There wasn't huge leaps and bounds in the way
But it was dangerous. Life was dangerous.
It was dangerous, but it was very small incremental changes in our lifestyle, the way we lived, right? In the last 100, shit has shifted gears, bro. Yeah. Like we went from still working and doing most things manually ourselves and still being a relatively rough life to like, you can sit on your phone and just blah, blah,
do you know
order whatever. You don't have to leave the couch, bro. You could just.
Do you want to hear a fun fact? You may know this already, but one of the major contributing factors to human evolution and progress with the maybe first industrial revolution, but even before that, was coffee.
I think I've heard that somewhere.
So before that, we drank mostly alcohol. You were drinking alcohol all day.
And wasn't it because water sources were poor?
You would get sick and die from it.
Right. That's why a lot of people drink wine all the time, because like you die from water, wine's safe.
So all of a sudden, we went from being drunk to being wired on coffee.
To being all fucking like, let's go.
Yeah.
I mean, right here.
Water. I'm going to have some after I'm done.
Coffee.
Nice.
I mean, I've always got these two on me, bro. Water and coffee. That's all day. All day. My dad used to joke around. I always thought that was
a pretty cool fact.
That is a cool fact, and I have heard that. My dad always joked around. He's like, because my dad was an old school guy, man. Mm-hmm. He was at the railroad back when it was roughneck.
Nice,
and, he's like, what do I need water for? I'm like, because you got to hydrate. He's like, what the fuck do you think's in coffee? I'm putting water over some beans. It's still water.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if it works quite that way, Pop.
Right.
But, you know, I think caffeine's a diuretic, but hey, you know, whatever.
My dad's like, you guys are drinking too much water. What's with everyone drinking water all the time? It's bad for your liver or something.
Because my dad would be out there in the heat in Florida in the summer. It's like 100 degrees. He's out there doing yard work or doing whatever, pouring sweat. And he'd come up on the porch sipping hot coffee. And I'm like, oh. I'm like, how are you doing that? He's like, you guys are just a bunch of bitches. Like,
My father would say it cools you down. It regulates your internal body temperature.
Dude. They were a different breed. But, you know, that's a perfect example. My grandfather, 8 years old. His mom was dead. His dad was kind of a shithead. And he was working in the local markets trying to earn money to help his family make ends meet, right? That was only two generations ago, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, dude, we are. This is the luckiest time to be.
That's what I'm saying.
What was that movie the guy from Family Guy, Seth MacFarlane, did? The Wild West.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you could die any second.
Any second. But I mean, that's kind of the point, right? And I think that's part of what leads to a lot of these mental issues people are having these days with anxiety
100%.
and stress and stuff like that is because
yeah,
we're wired to deal with shit.
Yes, you are wired for anxiety because things could actually kill you. Now we're sitting around wondering why we're so nervous, but it's really only been, like you said, 2, maybe 3 generations away from those times where a bear could jump out and eat you at any moment.
Well, and because they were so physically active back then, they worked off that anxiety, so they didn't sit around and stew in the anxiety because they were out working their ass off all day. You know what I mean? I mean, they were growing their own food and butchering their own animals and building their own stuff. I mean, it was getting a glass of water was difficult. You had to go to the well and pump it and shit. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't in a very short period of time. We went to sitting on your couch and ordering everything on Amazon, and we're not getting that energy out, which I think leads to a lot of our bodies haven't had time to. Evolution takes hundreds, thousands of years, and this shit has happened in a very 2 generations. So I don't know, man. It's a weird world we live in, bro. Weird world.
Yeah. It is.
But there was something else I was going to hit on, and I don't remember what it was now. There's something you were talking about a minute ago, and I was like, oh, I need to add something to that. And I don't remember. Fuck it. It's gone. That's what happens when you get over 40. You get over 40.
Okay, so every room I walk into, I say, why am I here?
Dude, I do that all the time. I'll be like, I'll be sitting in the kitchen doing this, and my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't fucking know. I came in here because I wanted to do something, and now I don't remember anymore.
It's called doorway something. There's a name for this. So when you pass through a doorway, there's something psychological that happens where it's like new scene, and your brain kind of shifts gears.
Speaking of something weird with your brain, and this is something that my wife said she's never experienced, and I did, and I thought I was seeing glitches in the Matrix for a minute. I had my tinfoil hat on, and then I researched it and found out that it's a real phenomena, and I'm not going crazy. It's just normal. Have you ever, in the middle of your day, all of a sudden felt like you didn't recognize somebody you really know? Like, have you ever, for instance, been sitting there talking to your wife?
I like that one.
Have you ever been sitting there talking to somebody like your wife, somebody you know very well, and all of a sudden their face didn't even look familiar to you?
Oh,
and they seem like a stranger.
That would freak me out.
It happens to me occasionally.
Oh no,
it's not a lot. It's like a few times a year, and it happens for like 5 seconds, and you snap out of it.
Huh?
And I'm like, what? It's actually called reverse deja vu. And it's a similar thing to deja vu, but obviously the reverse, where deja vu, it's you're reminded of something that you've done it before. This feels like you're in a situation you've never been in before when you should have been in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I forgot it's been a couple years since I've read about this, but I forgot the biological reasoning to why it happens. But yeah, it's a real phenomenon, and I'm not going crazy. It happens.
I see things out of the corner of my eye all the time. I'll look up and think someone's standing there and there's no one there.
And you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That happens at least a few times a day.
Now see, my mom would say that's a ghost. My mom is very superstitious. She's very much like one of those. Do you believe in ghosts?
I want to say no, because I don't believe in ghosts. But remember a few minutes ago I told you about that I had this nervous breakdown?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm in Savannah, Georgia, and we go to the
Well, if you're going to see one, Savannah's the place. Dude. It's a creepy
we're going to go to the most haunted restaurant in Savannah. It's called the Pink House. It's a very fancy place. It's really nice. And we get to the Pink House. They sit us down, and the moment my ass hit the seat, I'm in panic. Like, I'm talking about my hands are sweating. I'm freaking out. I have no idea what's
Mom
going
spaghetti.
on. So, yeah. So dude, it got to the point we had to leave the restaurant. I took 2 shots of whiskey there. We had to leave the restaurant.
Are you sure that just wasn't an anxiety attack?
Yeah, it could have been. But check this out. Hold on.
This
This is the interesting part, okay? Now, usually, I've had episodes like this. They don't last very long. This lasted like 4 months.
4 months? Your hands sweat for 4 months?
Bro, I had the worst anxiety for like 4 months. There was a chemical imbalance. Something happened. Now, this is also a time in my life where I'm coming off using narcotics on a regular basis of some sort or another, from pills, Xanax,
So you don't think it had something to do with that, not ghosts?
I do, but check this out. This is the weird part, right? Because it happened in this haunted restaurant, right?
Right.
So finally, after like 4 months of this, and this is when I first met my wife, so I'm like, man, she thinks I'm like a nut job. Like, I was worried she was gonna like be
bail.
Like, dude, yeah.
This fucking guy.
So because I went from this guy, this outgoing dude, I didn't want to leave the house. And so, long story short, one day I said, that's it. I gotta beat this thing. I don't give a shit. We're gonna go to New Orleans. Let's drive to New Orleans today. Another haunted town. And so we get to New Orleans. I'm having terrible panic. The place looks like a ghost town, as always. And that night, I went to sleep, and I remember like having tears in my eyes because I just hate feeling this way. And the next morning, when I woke up, I got out of bed, and I was like, son of a bitch, I'm back to normal.
I mean, I admit that's odd, and there are some coincidences there, but I still
So
don't
maybe
know
some spirit hitched a ride to New Orleans. That's always in the back of my mind. Obviously, it was an imbalance of some sort. But
yeah, dude, I think that was
I don't believe in
that
ghosts.
Is a weird coincidence that it started and stopped in a very haunted area, right? That's a coincidence.
I've had one experience.
I've never.
When I was in a band in New York City, one of our friends lived in this old building in downtown Manhattan, Christopher Street. It's a big gay pride area. And, I mean, this place would mob every night. The streets were crazy. And a lot of these buildings had carriage houses in the back. These were old buildings, and they're built on Indian burial lands and stuff like that. And so one time, me and my guitar player are standing in his hallway, and the hairs on our, so I don't know if I necessarily believe in ghosts, but the hairs on our arms were standing up. He looked at me, I looked at him, and I said, what the fuck is that? And he was like, I don't know. So we both experienced this thing at the same time. I do believe that there could be bad energy in places that a lot of people died, something like that. I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, I would believe in bad energy more than fucking, like, poltergeists. You know what I'm saying? Like, woo, coming down the hallway ghosts. Like, I don't know, man. I've been in some pretty sketchy, haunted type places that people swear up and down they've seen ghosts and stuff. And there's nothing, bro. And like, we lived in this house when I was a kid that none of my uncles would even go up to the 3rd floor because they were convinced it was haunted. And I used to go up there and play as I was a kid. We had like this little pinball machine thing up there, and I would go up there and play. And I never saw shit. Like I don't know, man. I've never seen any evidence. Contrary.
I had a friend. I had an acquaintance that swore they saw ghosts all the time. They'd speak to them and stuff.
But I mean, that could just be mental illness.
I agree 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
1,000%.
It's like I don't know, man. Like if somebody came up to me like, dude, I see ghosts, I'd be like, you should probably see a psychiatrist. I wouldn't like immediately be like, oh, then ghosts must be real because this guy says he sees ghosts all the time.
I had a friend growing up who died in Iraq, and once in a while when we'd get high, smoking weed, he'd freak the fuck out and see things. And he had some issues, rest in peace, but
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I've never seen a ghost. Yeah, I've never seen a ghost. I don't believe that ghosts exist. No, I don't.
I would love to think they did. That would be awesome.
I don't think that would be awesome at all, my friend.
Oh, that'd be cool as shit. I mean, it's not like they can hurt you. What are they going to do? They're fucking ghosts.
Okay.
They're gonna boo you to death.
Okay, so my wife's friends are huge into anything haunted. All their apartments black. They had one of their cats that died. They took instead of doing.
They got stuffed or something?
No, instead of stuffing it, they put the skeleton. They had the skeleton put together. They have a cat.
Oh, they had like articulated?
Yeah, dude. No,
Yeah.
like everything is scary with them. And we
They're like the Addams Family, right?
Yes, correct. They love that. In fact, I think they dress up as that for Halloween and stuff. And so we went to New Orleans for my wedding, and because my wife and I love it there, and we
does it smell like piss on
sure it does. Yes,
okay.
It's part of the allure.
I've never been there, but everybody
yeah.
tells me like Bourbon Street is kind of stinky.
So one of my friends got me the first time I went to Bourbon Street. I don't hang out there when I go to New Orleans. I hang out in the upper and lower Garden District. But we went there at night, and they got me really stoned before we went. And so I'm mellow and chill, and we're walking down the street, and it's getting louder and louder. And I'm with these two guys that are from there, and we finally get into the actual like thick of it. And the dude turned to me and he was like, "I always think that this is what hell must be like." and bro, people are fucking pushing each other, throwing up in the street and pissing all over. It was fucking disgusting. It was crazy.
Yeah, dude, I've heard weird stories about that. I've heard some people say they love it. I've never been. So let me just say that I'm not speaking from experience. But I've heard stories of people that absolutely loved Bourbon Street. And then other people that were like, it was fucking gross.
Yeah, I almost moved to New Orleans, but I had to come to the realization that I would probably become a deep alcoholic there. It's very accepted to.
Yeah.
I mean, there are young guys with, you'll meet young guys at bars and stuff, and they're missing teeth, and like they just live off alcohol. It can be a little bit of an unhealthy situation.
And let me preface, I'm not speaking of New Orleans as a whole.
Sure.
I think
Bourbon Street.
It's probably a pretty great place. Lots of history there, and I've seen some stuff that I've never been, but on TV I've seen some stuff. It looks like a pretty place, very cool.
Amazing.
But I've just heard mixed things about Bourbon Street itself. Some people say some people say it's the greatest place and it's so fun, and other people are like, bro, it's pretty rank.
It's like going to LA and just going to Hollywood Boulevard. It's gross. You don't want to do that. Like, don't just go there. You got to go to all the nice places too, or going to Manhattan and just going to the Village on Friday night at midnight. Like, come on, you're gonna have a jaded experience.
In Florida, Daytona's a little like that.
Daytona's a zombie town. It's a weird place.
At night, it's all lit up and there's neon. Well, look, okay, let me. I haven't been to Daytona in years, but when I was in my youth and I partied and stuff, we used to go to spring break on Daytona. During at night, there's all the neon lights and there's people everywhere and it's all this. But in the day, it's like when they turn the lights on at the bar at the end of the night and you're like, yeah. Oh, this fucking place is gross, man. Like, during the day, Daytona's a little like, not all of Daytona, but like the strip, the area where.
What do you think about St. Augustine?
I love St. Augustine. I mean, that's where I live, bro.
St. Augustine, we went there this weekend, and we take our kid there once in a while and do like educational stuff and eat.
Dude, it's great. I love it.
It's such a beautiful place, man. It's so beautiful there.
I love it there, man, because it's like a big, small town.
Yeah. I just watched a documentary on the history. I mean, this is the first city. It's
the oldest city in the United States, bro. Yeah. Oldest city. It's I think it has a cool vibe, and even though it's kind of big and kind of crowded and there's more and more people there, it still has kind of like a homey kind of like little city by the beach kind of feel to it. And I don't know, I love St. Augustine. I mean, I'm biased though because I live here, so
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of people are like, of course you say that, motherfucker. You live there. You know what I mean? Okay. But yeah, I enjoy St. Augustine. I don't go down into downtown St. Augustine as often as I should, because it does get a little crowded, especially in the summer with tourists and stuff like that. But I think it's beautiful. I love it.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing.
There was something else. How deep do you want to go with pissing people off on this podcast?
Very. Let's do it.
I don't know. This might not be a good one to talk about.
Let's hear it.
I think this could potentially.
Who cares?
Because people get real emotional about some of this stuff, man, and I always wonder about how far to push my opinions about certain things on a social platform in fear of people getting real crazy. And this is one that I'm like, ugh.
I'll let you know if we should talk about it. Go ahead and just say the topic. Oh no, it's that bad? Maybe
It's not that bad, but like,
what is it?
I feel like in today's world, it could potentially
Okay, so
be
what
really
is it?
bad.
You're killing me here, Smalls.
Transgender people in women's bathrooms.
Okay. Yeah, so I went to a restaurant in St. Augustine, and there was this transgender person there, and I was like it like caught me off guard, and I think that's what most people go through when they run into transgender. They're like, "Oh shit! Like this is totally different," you know. And then I was like,
Okay,
you know what?
let me rephrase. Let me rephrase. Not even as much in restrooms as in locker rooms. Let me specifically talk about locker rooms because this is a thing that popped up recently that I've been seeing some stuff on social media, and I'm like, please tell me this isn't really happening. But these were like legit, like city hall meetings that I was watching. So obviously it's real, and I'm like,
Yeah, but where are you running into a transgender person in a locker room? At the gym?
the one that I specifically watched, and it was a girl talking to like a city council, or it was in like a town meeting scenario where she was at a microphone and there was a board of people. So I don't know the whole story, but she was talking about the YMCA.
Okay.
They allowed transgender men transgender women. How does that work?
I don't know.
I get confused about that. Biological men that are living their life as a woman. What is that?
You just reminded me of in the latest Larry David. You know, he's super progressive and stuff. And there's one of the guy's daughters became a man, and Larry bumps into her in the locker room. And he's like, "Oh, what's this thing?" You know, he's got a huge dong, and he's like, I think you took a little liberty here, you know.
Well, and you know, and let me preface this by saying I support everybody's right to live their life how they want, free of ridicule and all that stuff. So I support that. But when it starts affecting other people is where I start to go, well, hold the phone a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So this was a 17-year-old girl that was at the YMCA, and again, I don't know which is which. And I think it's a trans woman.
Okay.
A trans woman.
So
I think
that was a man. That used to be a man.
I think it's a biological man living their life as a female. I think that's a transgender woman. I don't know if I'm fucking that up.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway,
you're right.
Point is, looks like a girl but has male genitalia.
Okay, and this person is in the locker room naked.
Naked. And the 17-year-old girl is showering. She comes out of the shower and sees a dong and gets scared and goes back in the shower and hides in the shower until they leave because she's intimidated by this. And she's not comfortable being around a naked and or undressing herself.
Yeah.
And I think we're doing an injustice to biological women to force them to be in a situation.
I hear ding, 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 ding. You just set off so your opinion is it's not right.
I don't think it's right to.
But you're not saying it from like, fuck these people. They're not.
No.
No,
And
you're
that's
just
why
like,
I said I want to. I don't think it's right to put a bunch of women in an uncomfortable situation where they feel threatened.
Yeah. So all I can do is I could say that if I was a transgender person, I probably wouldn't go into the locker rooms without my clothes on, just because I don't want to I don't do it now. I don't take my clothes off in the locker room now. I don't need somebody seeing me, and I don't want to see you.
Let me put it this way, and this is the point that this girl was bringing up. She's like, my 6-year-old sister also goes to this YMCA, and she dresses and undresses in this locker room. Would you feel comfortable with your daughter undressing in a locker room where there was biological or transgender women, to where your 6-year-old daughter would potentially see a dong? Would you feel comfortable with that? To see a fully nude, mature male's penis in a locker room?
No, I wouldn't. But it's not even the matter of the transgender. It's just a matter of, I don't want my kid in locker rooms, period. Weird shit happens in locker rooms.
Man, weird shit does not. I've been in a lot of locker rooms in my
Bro,
life.
how many times have you heard about the swim coach or the this one or the that? It's like
The swim coach shouldn't be in the damn women's locker room
yeah,
either.
I remember our gym guy would have to make sure we showered. He'd have to look. Oh, what's this guy doing?
Oh, well, I mean,
You
it's
know?
a guy though. It's like, yeah, whatever. It's like he's not seeing anything he hasn't seen before. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like,
but it's more pedophilia. Like,
oh well, yeah. I mean, if he's a pedophile, then obviously he shouldn't be teaching children anyway.
they
But
like to do that. They like to do that.
I guess my point is, and then I saw another clip with this girl that was on a sports team and was having a similar issue, and she had gone to the authorities, not authorities like police, but gone to the powers that be and been like, look, a lot of us are really uncomfortable getting undressed in front of being naked in front of these transgender women.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's a weird thing, right? Like,
It is.
I'm not trying to bash on.
It's new. It's a new thing.
I'm not trying to bash on people trying to live their own life, but at the same time, I think we're doing biological women. You're putting other people in a position where they feel threatened and uncomfortable.
I don't think it's a man or a woman thing. I think you're right. I think some people are uncomfortable with it, and that's why if I were a trans person, I probably wouldn't use the locker room. That's just me. Now, would I use a bathroom? Sure. Close the door, and that's it. Am I showing people my stuff? No.
Right.
So that may be just that one trans person is, either comfortable showing their stuff or wants people to see them nude. And if there's minors involved, especially, I don't.
It's
I'm
weird,
not
man.
into that.
Like, I just don't think that's. I don't know, man. And, like I said, these days you have to watch out what you say because next thing you know, you'll have a bunch of people all over you
Well,
calling
let me
you
ask you this.
a
Let me ask you this,
transphobe
though.
and stuff.
And so let me ask you that. Because what happened was, this was my experience, and I hope no one is offended by it. We walked into this restaurant, and I saw this trans person there, and I was like, it was like a little bit of a gut shot, like, because you don't, in here where I live, you don't see it every day. In New York, I saw it all the time. It didn't make a difference. Although when I saw it younger, it was very exaggerated, like drag style,
Sure,
typically,
yeah.
unless I'm with someone and I just don't know. And so, and then so like after that initial reaction, I was like, hold on. First of all, you need to be, this is what I told myself. I was like, you need to be a little bit more fucking mature, number one. Number two, it is what it is. That's that person's, that's their life. And then I started to think like, okay, am I mature enough to hang out with, to have someone over at my house and like become friends with someone? And, I took a good look at this person. And I was like, this person looks cool. He or she is dressed well, that has nice style. Like, I don't,
Sure.
and then we went to another restaurant and the dude was like, it was like a guy, but he was like definitely bending, the situation a little bit. And I was
Sure.
like, yo, you know what? He looks cool. Like, it is what it is. I'm not phobic in that sense because
Well,
I know
I'm not either.
but I just want to say this, like the gay people that I've met for the most part have been such good people.
Oh, absolutely.
That like
For
I don't
sure.
think. Of course, there's shitheads in every. There was a guy that worked at the hotel that used to. He walked on our Christmas party. I'm 16. He's probably 36. He walks into the bathroom. And he was like, "Let me suck your dick. Just close your eyes and pretend."
Jesus Christ.
He was like,
Yeah, that's a little much.
He was like, "Let me suck your dick. Just close your eyes. Pretend it's a woman."
Oh, dude, no, that's over the line,
It
bro.
made
I'd be
me
like,
so uncomfortable.
That's what I'm
I was
saying.
like, I was so uncomfortable for days after that. I was like, because when you're young, you don't know, like, so no, I don't think young people should be exposed to anything sexual at all.
Right.
So no,
Right.
I don't. And I would like to say, like, if you're trans and you still have those pieces, those parts of you that were, belong biologically or whatever to your original form. Like, I don't know. I think you should do, at least wear underwear. Like, I don't think if you're especially around kids, like, I don't think you should be. This is how I feel. If I walked in, I want people to act the way that I would act. And so if I walked into a locker room and had to take a shower in a locker room, which I would never do, by the way, just for fear of athlete's foot, but I would I would keep myself covered if there were younger people around and even older people around because, dude, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I remember my cousins were staying in Miami. I went down to see them. This is like 10 years ago. Oh, I lived in Miami at the time, and we went into this locker room, and this dude's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, he was obviously, seeing who else was ready to have some action in there. And, so I don't do it myself, so no.
And this is where it gets complicated, right? And this is why I say it's such a weird topic, is even if they keep themselves covered, right? Even if they're not like walking around with their dick swinging, right? Yeah. Some trans women, right? So biological men living their life as a woman are still attracted to women. Yeah. Just because they're a trans woman doesn't mean they like men.
Caitlyn Jenner, which I don't fucking understand, but whatever. That's not for me to understand.
So still at that point, now you've got, even if it's covered and you don't see it, you've still got a biological man in a biological man that's attracted to women in a locker room with women getting undressed. And I just feel like I understand why that would make women uncomfortable, right? Yeah. Like I understand why women would not feel safe in that scenario.
Would you? Okay, so let's say that person decides they're going to use the men's, and you're in there, and you see now you've got a woman next to you that maybe even has large breasts and is in. Let's say for the sake of this scenario, she's in great shape. She's hot. He or she is hot, and like, are you uncomfortable when that dong comes flopping out?
Well,
or when the boobs come popping out?
Well, here's the thing. Would it make me a little uncomfortable? Maybe. Would I feel threatened though? No.
I think for my marriage, I would feel uncomfortable being in the room with another pair of naked breasts. I'd be like, this isn't right. I wouldn't want my wife in a room with it. Right. So
So that's my point. I would, but I think that's the distinction. As a guy who can carry myself and I hold my own, I'm not threatened by that. I might be mildly uncomfortable because I'm like, what is going on here? But I'm not threatened. I think the main problem is a lot of women, they feel threatened. And not that this person's a predator and is going to attack them, but still, women live in a very different mindset than we do because, I mean, men aren't often attacked. You know what I'm saying? But if you've got a 6'2", 180 or 190 pound biological man in a locker room, that's threatening to a lot of women.
It's tough, man. And I just think that most of these issues, like, they don't need to be, like, there doesn't need to be some law made. I just think people need to talk about just common courtesy. Like,
I think the only real solution is to make a third bathroom, a gender neutral or
that's the party room, bro.
but you know what I'm saying? So that way women that aren't comfortable are safe in the women's locker room, men that maybe aren't comfortable are safe in the men's locker room, and then people that are cool can go in the gender, what do they call that? It's not gender neutral.
Here's my thing, and this isn't to trans people, this is to anyone, especially old men. Bro, Every shower, every shower that you go, they have a little thing. You don't need to be walking out in front of everyone butt ass naked. You can just take your shower and then wrap your towel around and move on with your life.
I got to tell you a story real quick, and I'll try to be quick with it because I know we're trying to keep these podcasts hour and a half, and I don't know how long we've been going.
Hour.
It's so true. Older guys are so like not giving a fuck about like swinging dick, right? I used to, when I was at my old job, we had a gym at the job, and I would work out in there. I would change, I would shower and all that stuff because I didn't want to go back to work stinking after a workout. Yeah. But I would shower in the showers. I would put a towel around me. Sure. I would walk out with a towel around me. Yeah. And then I would put my underwear on and take the towel off. Or sometimes I might drop the towel momentarily while I'm putting on my underwear. But for the most part, I stayed covered just because I'm not uncomfortable in those situations. I played football growing up and stuff, and I was around a lot of that. But a lot of guys don't want to see my dick, right? Like, sure. So I try to be respectful of not swinging it in people's face. You know what I'm saying? But these old guys, bro, I remember this one guy, we used to call him Captain Morgan because he would come out, towel over the shoulder, just
he's a pervert.
Swinging it. And then he would walk up to the mirror, comb his hair and all this, buck naked.
Pervert.
Buck naked. And then there was blow dryers on the shelf for guys that needed to blow.
No.
He would put his leg up on the bench like Captain Morgan
no.
and blow dry his junk to dry off his pubes and stuff. And
no.
he would make eye contact. One time I was sitting there fixing my hair and he's doing it. He looks over. He's like, "How's it going, bro?" I'm like, "Dude, do not make eye contact with me when you're in that pose, my man. Like, let's be serious."
That's a no.
Yeah, so it's an older guy thing for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a quick story. But to end it off, I don't want to make this sound like this was a hate fest towards trans people. I am not transphobic. I do not care. I'm down for people living their best life however they want to, as long as it doesn't affect or hurt anybody else. Yeah. Right? That's my main thing.
So let me change gears here for a moment. Ageism, right? Because that's what this is leading me to. You can have people that there are some forms of intelligence. I call it a wisdom. It's really experience that only come with age. And I think you have to be at least 40 plus to understand that. I think even in our 20s and 30s, especially some of us that are intelligent and successful in our 20s and 30s, truly believe that we can understand things in a way that, but you still act childish in some ways. You're still going to show that.
And if I'm not mistaken, biologically, now somebody might comment and say, "You're full of shit. That's not true. That's something you read on the internet. It's not even accurate." Yeah. But from everything I've ever seen, it's true that your frontal lobe isn't developed until like your early 20s. And that is the part of your brain where you kind of processes rational thinking and long-term decisions and stuff like that. So, I mean, for sure.
What age were you? But what age were you when you could say, okay, I can pretty much accept all of my behavior and my decisions from this age on? For me, that was like 36, 37.
I mean, I don't know that you ever fully get to where you accept everything. You always grow as a person.
Sure.
I think the older and older you get. But I would say I was probably in my 30s before I kind of found my center a little bit and kind of understood things a little on a different level and didn't get as crazy about things and kind of could rationally think about things that in my younger years would have gotten me a little more fired up and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's something that I would want to say to younger people that are dealing with different forms of mental illness. This podcast got deep.
It's probably going to get us all canceled because we're probably going to cut all of the last 30 minutes because we're going to fucking get canceled because God knows you can't have an opinion on some things without being labeled a transphobe.
I think I watched these guys that did Happy Dad, that group, Steve Will Do It, those guys. They're so successful. They're so young. And it sounds like, based on listening to some of their interviews, that they're all dealing with anxiety and things like that on some of them on high levels. And the one thing that I wanted to say to these guys, watching this podcast, was some of that shit will go away with time, with age. Your body it calms down a little bit. Some of these juices that are flowing, man, it starts to calm down. In my late 30s, I thought I was going to have...
Your testosterone drops a little bit?
Yeah. I thought I was going to have major anxiety my whole life, and I'm doing great, thank God, So I do want to say that to people struggling with mental illness, is particularly under the age of 40, that even from a chemical standpoint, you're not done changing yet. You're never done changing. But I think as you get older, and I've heard this from other older people in their 60s and 70s, that it really starts to fade away, a lot of that stuff. What I want to know is, are you going to see the new Magic Mike movie? That's really...
I didn't even know there was a new Magic Mike movie.
There's a new one. It looks terrible.
I never even saw the first one.
Oh, come on. They were great.
I mean, it could have been. It wasn't that I was like, ooh, I don't want to see a bunch of guys dance. I don't care
if
about that.
If ever a movie embodied Tampa, I mean, they did a great job with the origin story on this, because he started out in Tampa, and that is the city that a person making a living, male stripping, would be from.
A place that a person who is making a living getting
that is
naked.
a respectable line of work.
I'm telling you though, man, go today or tonight when you sit down, watch some of The Last of Us. I'm telling you.
Okay, Eagles or Chiefs?
Is that the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that shows you how completely removed from football I am these days. I don't even know who's in the fucking Super Bowl.
This is not a sports podcast, I'll tell you that right now. We know nothing. I'm going for the Eagles though. Philly in the building.
I give zero fucks about professional sports. Zero.
How do you feel about football?
I love football as a sport. I just give zero fucks about professional football.
How did you feel about that guy getting hit and having a cardiac arrest and going into a coma?
I mean, that's horrible. I didn't know that happened, but that's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, this is coming from a guy who used to play sports growing up through high school and whatnot. And when I was younger, I really enjoyed it. So, I mean, I'm not knocking anybody that is a sports fanatic. When I was younger, I had the Sunday ticket. I could watch 7 fucking games all at once, and we had a football pool, and we bet on them and all this stuff. I just lost interest in it. For some reason, it just stopped giving me the joy. I would watch them, and I was like bored halfway through watching the games, and I was just like, why am I watching this? Because I feel like as a guy I should be. I'm like, this is fucking stupid. I don't like it. So I stopped doing it.
I like the wings though. I do like the food and the beer.
The food's great. The atmosphere, you know, having a bunch of people, like all that's fantastic. But like, I don't know, man. I don't.
Do you watch any sport now? Are you into any sport?
None.
I'm into boxing, which is weird because
I watch MMA. I watch MMA. I take that back. I do watch MMA.
I look at football as like, what are we letting these guys take the pads off? We'll let them play without pads because the pads are what's getting them to hit like this.
Rugby, bro. Rugby.
Yeah.
Those guys are serious business.
Yeah. But they have less head trauma from what I understand.
Well, it's because generally speaking, you're not going to smack your skull into another person's skull if you can avoid it, where if you got a helmet on, you're more likely just to run in there full speed.
But I love boxing, and boxing is so hot right now. It's finally back. There are some great fights coming up. I'm looking forward to this Caleb Plant versus Benavidez, and I'm looking forward to, of course, Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. I mean, there's some great fights happening right now.
I want to like boxing, and some of it is great, and there's also those matches where like nothing happens for 12 fucking rounds, and it's just like, but I mean the same thing happens with MMA. You get 2 people that are just kind of stalling the whole time, and it's just like, come on, bro, this shit's boring.
Yeah.
But when there's a slugfest and people are getting after it, it's very entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
When you know, when you're getting 2 people that are getting after it, it's awesome. It can be a little dry though, man. Like.
I you know what? In all fairness, I don't typically buy the pay-per-view. I end up watching the highlights the next day. For me, it's a lot of, I think what boxing has done that's been great is the reality TV leading up to the fight. They're doing such a good job of capturing the training camps. And I think that there's something, for me, the reason why I like boxing, although I don't like MMA, so I shouldn't say that, but I love the idea of, you know, these guys that are you know, willing to put themselves physically on the line, and they're just, you know, conditioning to like no end. And
I mean, I got a ton of respect for it, for sure. I mean,
what do you like about MMA?
I don't know, man. Just like, because that's how a real fight would be, right? Like in a real fight, it's not like, oh, all you can do is this. In a real fight, there's kicking, wrestling, grappling.
Do you
punching.
think a good MMA fighter could fight a good boxer?
I think a real MMA fighter, if you're restricting it to just boxing.
No. I'm saying you throw him in a ring and see what happens. Who's going to win?
I think if you take a high-level MMA guy and put him against a high-level boxer and allow the MMA guy to do whatever he wants, he is fucking that boxer up so bad that it's not even funny.
Oof, I completely disagree with you.
Oh, dude, he's fucking. What are you gonna do?
Bro, I know guys with the fist that could, as soon as you shoot in, they got a knee in your face or a fist in your face.
But they're not good at kneeing you. They're boxers. They don't know how to use their legs properly.
I mean, these are guys that fight, period. So I'm not saying that they're kickboxers, but I'm sure these guys have been in street fights when they were younger and could throw a knee.
Yeah, but you don't think a guy that's been fighting kickboxers his whole life knows how to defend against a knee coming up from a guy who probably doesn't ever train how to throw knees?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think that it's not that I don't think the boxers.
Well, look at Conor McGregor. He dominated for a long time. All up top game. It was all hands, mostly hands up top.
But he also could grapple. He could wrestle. He could do all the things. You know, and anytime you're splitting your focus up like that, you're not going to be as good, right? I don't think there's any MMA guy out there that is better than some of the best boxers, because those boxing guys have honed that craft. They put all their time.
I
into
was
being
shocked how well McGregor did against.
But that's what I'm saying. Now you change that fight up and let McGregor sweep his legs and grapple and throw elbows and throw knees and throw kicks. He would have fucking destroyed Floyd Mayweather.
You think
He
so?
would have destroyed him. Would have destroyed him. I mean, that's a strong opinion, and some people probably disagree with me. But I put it this way: they had another bout, knowing what the first fight happened like, right? Knowing that Floyd Mayweather won. If they had another bout, and they said MMA rules, same fight, I would put $10,000 on Conor McGregor.
Wow.
I'm that confident that he
You
would
remember
win.
Kimbo Slice?
Yes.
He was a great street fighter. He was not great in the octagon.
But that's my point, man. It's like those guys that are boxing, they are unparalleled with their hands, no doubt. Those guys, but when you introduce elbows and kicks and grappling and wrestling and all that in, I don't know that those guys have the ability to compete. That's like a guy that has, one weapon fighting a guy that has 10.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know what I'm saying? I just don't know how, as a boxer, you would compete with that. Could they get a lucky shot and knock them out as they're coming in for a takedown? Sure, they could, but I mean, those guys are used to doing that.
What whiskey have you purchased lately, or are you interested in purchasing? Is there anything new released that you're hot on?
I mean, there's always new releases constantly. It's hard to even fucking keep up with it. There's new whiskeys, weekly new whiskeys. The last couple that I've got, I'm leaning over because I'm looking at my shelf to see. There was a Remus Repeal Reserve 6 that just came out. It was pretty good. It wasn't as good as the 5. Remus Repeal Reserve 5 was probably one of my favorite releases last year, 2021.
Who makes that?
Remus.
Where are they made?
I want to say they use juice from. I just had a stroke. I literally just.
Do
had
they
a
have
stroke.
their own distillery?
No, I think they're using it. If I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, but I think they use MGP.
Yeah,
I was
Indiana.
Yeah, I think they use.
So you respect brands that use MGP?
Sure.
As much?
No, dude. Some of the best whiskeys out there are MGP juice that they've then blended and aged. Sometimes they'll take it and they'll age it themselves a little further. Sometimes they're just picking barrels and blending it into a delicious whiskey. I mean, it's
Very cool.
Just because they're not doing it from soup to nuts doesn't mean you don't have some talented people blending stuff together and doing what they need to do. I got a barrel pick of some E.H. Taylor recently that was really, really good.
Oh, you don't have the Pravada Penelope.
No, somebody never sent it to me.
Yeah, I'll send you a bottle.
It's all you, bro. I mean, I
I got you.
Just
What about any cigars that you're trying?
Dude, it's funny. Obviously, I like my Pravada, and I'm not saying that because, but I do, man. I enjoy that every month because it's something different, and that's the thing I've always said about the club. Right? Is it's like it's my little box of like something that I'm not gonna find on the shelf, something different. When you're like me and you smoke as many cigars as I do, it's nice to get a little something different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's a fun little box every month. Yeah. Do I love every cigar? No, of course not. But I really enjoy most of them. I'd say it's a 90% hit rate, and even the ones that aren't my favorites, I still like. Yeah. But it's the fact that it's giving me something that I can't find locally, and it's not the same shit that I'm smoking all the time that makes it an interesting thing every month. Yeah. But I tell you what I smoke the most of, more than anything, because I smoke a lot of cigars. Mm-hmm. It can get very expensive when you smoke the amount of cigars I smoke.
Sure.
Costco has these 10 packs of Rocky Patels. Uh-huh. And it's, I think, around the $30 mark for 10.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And it's got like...
Jesus, how do they do it?
And it's got like an Edge Habano, an Edge Maduro, an Edge Connecticut. It's even got a Decade in there, which, dude, the box press Decades, that's such a good cigar.
Wow.
It's got the vintage 1990 in there.
I wonder how they do that from a price perspective.
I don't know, but
there's crazy.
There's 10 of them in there, and it's around the 30 some. 30. I think it's $32. I think so. 10 of them. You're talking $3.20 a stick.
It's incredible. Those are wholesale prices, bro.
Yeah, you're not going to find those Rocky Patel cigars for $3 and some change anyway.
I've heard that he moves up to 50 million cigars a year, which is insane. But I guess when you're making the same products at that kind of volume, the pricing must get better, because I could never even think about putting something out like that. I may not even be able to get those sticks made for that price exactly.
Dude, that's why I buy those, because I go through a lot, and I don't like smoking $8, $10, $12 cigars all day, because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And especially if I'm not paying super close attention to it. I'm just kind of doing it while I'm doing something.
Sure.
If it's a $10 or $12 cigar, I want to enjoy it. I want to be sitting down with a glass of whiskey or a cigar or a glass of coffee and really enjoying it and thinking about it. I don't want to be doing that with a $12 cigar. But a couple questions to you real quick. One, when are we going to drop the new Sires?
So I'm just waiting on a commercial.
I know we're not
going
to talk about this on the podcast a lot. Look, just for everybody that's listening, me and Brian both said this podcast is not going to be cigar heavy, because we both do that a lot in our other things.
Yes.
So this was like something different. But that's not to say we're not going to briefly speak on it occasionally.
So for the Robusto release, I'm waiting on you to do
we need to do
video?
a live stream on it. I want to do a live stream, and we'll each. I need you to send me a few more.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. You got it. All right. So I'll get those sent out to you. So we'll do that.
Get those sent out to me, and we need to do
March.
Normally I do like a big video on it, but I think it'd be kind of fun, and I'm still probably going to do a video on it, but I think it would be kind of fun this time for the launch, instead of doing a video where I'm reviewing it, to do a live stream with me and you, and we light one and we smoke the whole cigar on a live stream, and we sit and we shoot the shit. You tell some stories about where it came from, who rolled it, the tobaccos that are in it. We talk about the flavors we're getting, and we spend a good hour and a half smoking the whole thing with people.
Let's set it up for March.
We'll do it in March. Okay. So that'll be fun.
And then the actual release, I'm still working on packaging.
Yeah,
it's going to be a while. It's not so easy.
Yeah, I know that's a long-term project we're working on, and that could be a while. But I knew we had those other ones kind of ready to go, and we were going to do that.
They're great too, man. Great.
They are great, dude. I smoked the last couple I had not too long ago, and I was like, man, these motherfuckers are good.
Great. I can't wait. So I think we should end it here, man. This is an hour and almost 30 in, and we're good to go. Covered a lot of stuff today. I always enjoy catching up with you, and I'll see you next month for that. I will get with you on the March live stream of the Jeremy Sires Robusto Box Press Habano. It is fantastic. You have to get this.
It really is good. I'm pretty excited about it.
All right, my man.
All right, brother. Hey, don't go away when we finish this.
Okay.
Because I still need to talk to you a little bit.
All right.
But yeah, so we'll do this again next month. Once a month.
Yep.
We'll keep it rolling. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it.
Let's do it. Yep, for sure.
Hopefully
Peace.
I didn't get canceled.
I don't think so. Peace.